guys, what's up? It's Brooke. If this is your first time to my channel, I am a music education major at East Carolina University. I am currently in my internship, which means I am student teaching right now at a middle school. But because of the coronavirus, my internship in person had to end very abruptly. Currently we're working through Zoom with our band classes. I figured I would take this opportunity to just teach them and teach you guys some stuff that I learned in college. One of the biggest things I learned in college was how to practice my instrument. And practice is just so important. It's the only way that we're going to get better at our instruments. It's the only way that we're going to be able to perform well. So I hope that you can take my tips or the tips that I give for adaptation at the end of this video and put it into your own practice time. I would love for you to drop your practice tips in the comments. Without further ado, let's get started. First, I want to talk a little bit about the materials that I have with me for every single practice session. Obviously, the first one is my instrument. Can't really practice without an instrument. My primary is clarinet, but this practice routine can work for whatever instrument you play. The next thing I always have with me are my reeds. I always have at least, try to have 8, but I normally have about 6 reeds in here, and I'll rotate them throughout my practice session to make sure that none of them go dead quickly. The next thing that I always have with me is my neck strap. I have tendonitis in both wrists because of overuse my freshman year of college. So if you find yourself, I just hit myself. If you find yourself having pain in your wrists from over practicing, the neck strap is a really good way to take some of that tension out of your body. The next thing I always have with me when practicing is a bottle of water. For obvious reasons, I can't practice with a dry throat. I always keep a notebook with me so I can keep track of what I've practiced this day, what I need to work on still, what tempos I'm currently at with my music. I always have a tuner and a metronome with me. This is a tuner metronome 2-in-1. It's the Korg brand. A lot of people have it. Got it off of Amazon. But one side works the metronome and the other side works the tuner. So you always have that there with you. I always practice with the metronome. I always have my phone with me because I keep a timer. I'll talk more about that in a second. I have all of the books I'm going to be working with in my practice session on my stand ready to go. And finally, I keep a pencil because we don't play instruments without a pencil. It's basically a part of our anatomy. Come on, guys. Always have a pencil. So yeah, those are the materials I personally keep with me during my practice session. I am a music education major, so I practice 2 hours a day. I know a lot of people are performance majors and they'll practice like 5 to 6 hours a day, but since my instrument, my primary instrument, isn't my main focus and I am doing other things like practicing trumpet or practicing secondary instruments or reading scores, 2 hours a day is about what I go for. And I practice 6 out of 7 days a week. You need that 7-day to help your muscles recover, just to help your brain rest. Always give yourself at least one break day. It's super important to take breaks when you're practicing, not just throughout the week, but in your actual practice sessions. So what I'll do is I'll set a timer on my phone for 10 minutes. And every 10 minutes I will stop, I'll put my instrument down, and I'll do something else. I'll play on my phone, or I'll go talk to someone in the hallway, or I'll do something for at least 2 minutes. And I will rarely sit down and do a 2-hour practice session. I'll do like 20 minutes in the morning or 30 minutes during breakfast, and then I'll come back to it throughout the day, just so you don't hurt yourself. So the first thing I do in my practice sessions is I spend about a half an hour warming up. I'll do long tones, I'll work on connections throughout the break and throughout my fingers. I'll work on scales, anything that gets your air flowing and your fingers moving. I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of that for you before we move on. The first kind of long tones that I do are just straight regular long tones. I'll start at the bottom of my instrument's range and I'll work all the way up to the top. So I'm going to use as much air support as possible. I may have a tuner in front of me to make sure my notes are in tune. until my air runs out or until I get uncomfortable. While I'm doing it, I'm thinking about pushing as much air through the horn as possible without making an ugly sound. I think about how my embouchure is set. I think about my voicing. I think about my tuning. There's a lot of things that long tones help and people don't even realize it. So the next thing I do is I work with connections. So that means going across the break. It means going from one note to another without having blips. The first way I do this is I take that long tone and I just hit the register key. And so on. And I think about making those connections as smooth as possible. I'd say that these are the equivalent to lip slurs on a brass instrument, from going to the low partial to the high partial. The next thing I do to work on connections between my fingers and registers is I work out of this book, Carbonara book. It looks like this. I'll link it below. It's to work on your tone and the technique of your fingers. You don't necessarily have to start with the first one, but I normally will. Now when I'm playing number 3, I'm going to really focus on not having blips in my sound, keeping a smooth, steady air support. And if I don't like the way it sounds, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it again. So here's an example. Also, I'm going to do this with a metronome at quarter note equals 44. I think that could have been better. I think I could have put more air through the horn, so I'm going to do it again. And I liked that one, so I'm going to move on to the next. So for that one, I had a blip at the beginning and I didn't like my connection to the top note. So I'm going to do it again thinking about that. And I'm going to go through that whole exercise just like that, really thinking about what I'm doing, not just going through the motions. So then I might hit a couple sections in this book, but that's the one that I really enjoy focusing on. This book has really good stuff that goes up into the altissimo. It has good stuff to work with your dexterity. This is a great book if you're looking to practice things such as that. The next book that I'm going to open is the Behrman book, and this has my scales in it. So I will pick a scale. I'm going to go easy. I'm going to pick my F major scale. And I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it at a slow tempo. Probably half of the speed that I would want to normally play it. And I'm going to use that long focus sound that I use for my long tones. So I play it once at half tempo if I like it, or I could go back and do that again and fix whatever I need to fix, and then I'll play it at full speed. And then I'll go through maybe like 2 or 3 more scales like that. I'll do the melodic minor, the regular minor, the harmonic minor, all that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of scale work that I would use. And that's my warm-up. So normally I'd expand that to about 30 minutes of my 2-hour time. The next thing that I would work on for about 20 minutes of my practice time is an etude. Etudes are really good if you're trying to focus on something specific, like articulations, if you're trying to focus on dynamics. Instead of practicing this whole sheet of music, the first day learning it, I'm gonna pick a small section and just focus on that. So I'd play the first 3 or 4 lines really slow, and then I would start working up tempo. And I'm gonna do another video all about how to practice, so be on the lookout for that. So I'll do that for about 20 minutes until I accomplish the goal that I want to accomplish. The next thing that I'm gonna work on is the solo piece that my professor gave me in lessons. So let's say I was working on the Stamets, which I just played for a senior recital. I'm gonna open up to the part that he wanted me to practice, and I'm gonna practice it. And I'm not just gonna practice it at full speed. I'm not gonna practice it at full tempo. I'm gonna slow it down. I'm gonna do rhythm games. I'm gonna do small chunks until I'm super secure with the notes and the rhythms and the fingerings. I'll work on things like solos for about 50 minutes of my 2 hours, because that's where the meat is. Those are the things that you're gonna be performing. If you have 2 or 3 solos, it's gonna take you about an hour to finish all the work you need to do. And then the final thing I would do is I would practice ensemble music. So if I were in an ensemble, I would pull out my wind ensemble music or my band music or my quartet music, and I'd practice that for about 20 minutes. And that equals to my full 2 hours. Yay! Now, as I said earlier, I am teaching middle school right now. So I'm gonna kind of gear this toward what I know my middle schoolers are meant to practice. So we have our students practice 100 minutes a week, which is about 20 minutes a day if you do 5 days out of 7 days a week. If I were to adapt my practice session into a shorter amount of time, I would tell you to start with about 3 minutes of long tones or lip slurs. After you're done with that long tone warm-up, I would do 7 minutes of whatever scale you want to learn. So right now, my 6th graders are working on their A flat scale. I would tell them to practice it slowly and then start speeding it up and practice that for about 7 minutes a day. And then I would spend the remaining 10 minutes on whatever you're working on for band. If you're in high school, you should be practicing probably 30 minutes to an hour a day, and just adapt it to whatever you feel like. Just make sure a big chunk of practicing is warming up, because it's so important to warm up your brain. It's important to warm up your instruments. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you can get something out of it. Let me know what else you want me to put in this mini series below. The next one's gonna be how to practice. I'm gonna show you my practice tips, the best way to learn new pieces. So let me know what you want to see. Let me know your practice tips below, or show me how you were to practice if you were to sit down and practice. Go practice your instrument and stay safe and stay healthy. Love you guys. Bye.